morning, everyone. This is Michelle Hughes from Ageless and Timeless, and today I have a very wonderful guest named Michael Antonelli. And Michael and I have been chatting for several months now about his company called Healthgevity, HealthGevity, a very cool name. And Michael was the founder and CEO, and we're going to talk about the specifics of that company that I want you to be very, very aware of, because this is a company that has done many joint ventures with the leading practitioners and researchers and developers um, in the health world and the longevity world. That's why the name Healthgevity. And he works primarily with practitioners, but he does now sell to the consumer. So we are able to, if we're not medical doctors, we're able to purchase directly from him. So we'll talk about that today. But Michael, welcome to Ageless and Timeless.
Thank you so much for having me. I know we planned this, feels like months ago, and to have this day finally here, I'm really looking forward to our conversation. I know there's a lot on the agenda today to get over.
Yes, and you have a lot to share. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you, Michael, first, so people know who you are, how you got to this wonderful place of where you are today, and how you're helping so many people in their health span and lifespan. So start us from the beginning, how you were ignited to become a practitioner and a specialist in this wonderful world of longevity.
Absolutely, I would love to. So my journey started in 2006 when I was part of the sales team with a practitioner vitamin company called Metagenics. And at that point, I really had my eyes open up to what the right vitamins under the right supervision could do. I've seen firsthand medicine fail my loved ones. I, at that point in my life, only thought a doctor's visit was 5 minutes or less. And connecting and rubbing elbows with incredible practitioners all over the country who spent over an hour with their patients, put together advanced assessment to look at the root cause, learning from greats like Dr. Jeffrey Bland and Dr. Mark Hyman. That's where my journey really started, and it took off from there. At that point, I felt like eventually my end goal was to start my own vitamin company, be in control of every ingredient selected, dosed right. And from there, I worked with some of the leading companies globally in the nutraceutical, bioidentical hormone, and peptide world. Then during COVID, like so many of us, I spent that time soul searching, meditating, praying about what is my real purpose. And it was that point I committed to form Healthgevity and really create a company not only about extending and optimizing lifespan, but really putting the focus on health span. How do we harness the hallmarks of aging? How do we create incredible products that maximize every day we have the honor and blessing to wake up alive and to maximize every day we are given? And so I started that mission to disrupt everything going on, create product combinations that been willing to do so far, and also identify leading companies globally that are doing some incredible research, oral peptides, things that we could put together and dose correctly that puts our bodies in the best position to thrive naturally and be as less reliant on pharmaceutical options as possible. And that's what Healthgevity stands for.
You know, one of the things that's so unique and why I'm so attracted to your company and you is that many of the products, the ingredients, and we'll talk about this in the podcast today, but many of these ingredients are not that well known by the consumer. And you're finding, and this is where I think your primary focus has been, is to find those companies like the Irish company that we talked about in our first phone call. I forgot the name. What was the name of that company? No, not the Irish.
Noritas is
Nor-
that partnership. Yes.
So that's where you're so unique, is that you find these partners, and like you just said, that are doing these amazing research, and everything you do and every ingredient in your product has been scientifically studied, and a lot, most of them on humans and not on animals, like so many of the other vitamin ingredients. So for all of us who are very confused, which I would say is probably 99 and 9/10% of the population that is involved in functional medicine and selecting their supplement protocol, what you have done is made it easier for us. And this is where I'm really so grateful to you, Michael. And I just, full transparency for my viewers is that I have, thanks to Michael, tried many of the products that we're going to talk about today, and I really do feel the difference in these products, particularly if you dose them correctly. And that's another subject that is very important to cover because very often people take a supplement, but they don't take it at the right time or in the right concentration. So we'll talk about that. But let's move to what some of those research companies are, if you can share how you find them, how you know that they're efficacious, what is your process to determine whether it's a joint venture partner or not, and that then becomes the genesis of those products that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of it, I kind of call it our unfair advantage. The dozens, hundreds of practitioners that we are working with right now, it's close to 1,000 as of today. We get to tap into their practice, their patient base, and their experiences of ingredients that they're currently using that are making the most dramatic change for their patients, both quickly and then sustained. And then layered in with researchers that are either reading a lot of literature or part of these studies. And also from there is networking, going to supply conferences, doing our own research and reading, and identifying emerging ingredients and technologies that we feel are game changers. Now, because we're so nimble and easy to fast forward ingredients and fast track it, we're able to launch far quicker to some of these bigger companies, right? So that's a really nice way that we could take that idea that's happening in let's say Ireland or in Europe and get this in the doctor's hands in the United States. So, looking at who's using things like AI as a way or a path or a guidance, not the end all be all, who's investing a lot of money in clinical studies with humans, right? Let's take the guesswork out. Let's take the theory on paper and see how does that translate into real world outcomes. Because at the end of the day, that's what doctors care about. That's what you listening want to know about is predictable outcomes before you make that purchase. That's what we're really teeing up on is not only single ingredient identification, but what was the dose that was most meaningful? And then what are additional ingredients that could be complementary to cast this wide net in the body to facilitate a change that we all expect and want when we put money invested in every product that we take.
Hmm. So is there this is just an off the cuff question, but are there any times that you've had your process fail where you have thought that there was the right partner, joint venture partner, and for some many reasons, I'm sure it just didn't work. And what happened, and why did it not work?
So, out of all our formulas that we brought to market so far, I would say one I view as a disappointment, and that's not to say that it was a disappointment for everybody, but when we come out with something, we want to help the widest area. This was a very a great learning experience for us because what it showed us is that the brain is so individualized. And that when you stack some of these ingredients, you don't know how it's going to translate in the body. So we had a formula that had green tea derived caffeine with other really unique ingredients, tea cream, dynamine, a unique form of rhodiola. And what we saw is that it translated into about 30% patient success. The other 70% was ingredients that were a little bit too much for people to handle. We have since pivoted and found even newer emerging technology that solved this piece. But what it taught me was that caffeine is such a personalized experience, and that many of us either metabolize too fast or too slow caffeine. So there's somebody that's listening. You may consume coffee after 10 o'clock in the morning. You're going to be up all night, where other people are drinking coffee all day they're drinking or turning to energy drinks all day, they get no benefit, right? It's just habit. They're numb to caffeine. And so that would be, I would say, out of everything, one learning experience so far that made us better, made the process, the strategy, the blueprint much more better. And we were able to hone in on a greater way after that.
So Michael, so what would you say of all the products that you have, and we'll go through each one of them that we can have time to talk about today because they're all so important. But let's start at the top. I know you've just reformulated your NAD, your cardio NAD product. Would you say that that is probably the most important product in your protocol, or is it even possible for you to single out one?
It's like asking which kid do you love the best, right? I mean, they're all so close and near to us, and we spend a lot of time and energy and love into every ingredient we pick, how we dose it. If we can't have the best solution for a doctor to use with their patient, we're not coming out with it. So I'm
Mm,
excited about the reformulation with Cardio NAD. We just relaunched that a few weeks ago. It
mhm.
was a near and dear mission for us as we still are faced with heart disease being the leading cause of death. And
Right.
we wanted something that was going to help so many people and already is. I mean, we're getting some incredible initial feedback on the reformulation and happy to dive into the why
Yes.
and kind of the blueprint that we're following there.
Yes, let's do that. So tell us about first what's the intention? Obviously, the words cardio, and for those who don't know what NAD means, maybe you could just give a quick summary of what NAD is, and then let's talk about the ingredients and why they're making such a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, right now in literature, there is so much happening on both of these topics, right? So cardiovascular disease, vascular aging, NAD levels declining with age, and connecting that with mitochondrial dysfunction, chronic disease, why some people are aging faster than others. And so you might hear some of these NAD precursors like NMN, NR, niacinamide. You can do actual NAD through a patch, injection, IV. So what we wanted originally here was to start talking about the connection of vascular aging that goes with NAD decline. And then from there, there's these bigger buckets, right? We are as old or as young as our vessels. And starting
Hmm.
to identify this microvascular system, the endothelial glycocalyx, which may be a new word for some
Hmm.
of the listeners. How many of us have a family history of heart disease or dealing borderline of hypertension or already has hypertension, elevated lipids, nitric oxide dysfunction, right? These are all things that are bundled and clustered into cardiometabolic dysfunction. And so these were key, circulation's another one. We'll talk about that. But so these were major themes into creating this multi-stacked formula that casted a net onto all of these potential pathways and mechanisms to help support the underlying dysfunction present. And so when we look at a lot of the literature and start picking some of these ingredients, we'll start with the NAD component. So niacinamide, there's a brand new study that confirmed why we selected it and dosed it at 200 milligrams. That was very purposeful, but we stacked it with an emerging ingredient that not many companies in the world have, which is NAD3 through our partnership with Compound Solutions. The late great Dr. Hector Lopez is one of the IP holders of NAD3. He's been
Hmm.
an advisor of this company. He was critical at the original formulation and some ideas about where we are going to take it. So when we launched NAD3, this was just preclinical evaluation. We saw the potential of influencing all the hallmarks of aging. Fast forward to today, where we now have 3 human studies published showing incredible ability to play offense and defense inside the cell. So, actually honing in on why we are making less NAD paired with fueling the body to make more on its own. So when then you put that in there, and the latest study actually confirmed its role with helping support stem cell production in the body. And so NAD3 with niacinamide, that's the backbone of this formula. Then from there, we had a really fun time, honing in on the other ingredients that made up the rest of this formula. So we'll start with bergamot, a great fruit from Italy at 500 milligrams that's been shown to help support healthy levels of lipids, right? So healthy cholesterol. From there, CoQ10, so important for so many people. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's a brand new technology that's only in Europe when we pick this. We're now the first in the United States, but it's pairing and combining and binding CoQ10 with collagen peptides, and it creates this absorption matrix. CoQ10 is not well absorbed in our body on its own. That's why you
Right,
have people doing chewables, soft gels, liquids, and
right.
injectable. So with this, you're able to take the raw material that we have, this Leo HB CoQ10, and you could dump it in a cup of water, no mixing, no stirring, no shaking, and it will take over the entire water. It is incredible to see, and that's what it's doing in our body. So we selected that to be the version of CoQ10, and we said, what's the dose that all of our top level doctors, integrated cardiologists are doing? They're suggesting 300 milligrams. That's what we put in here. So
Mm-hmm.
from there, there's a brand new peptide through our collaboration with Noritas that you spoke about earlier. This is their second peptide that we've launched in the US. It's lentil-derived peptides. And over the last couple of weeks, there's actually been two publications highlighting the role of legume and lentil peptides for cardiometabolic disorders. And in this case, for circulation and ACE inhibition properties, the lentil peptides were tapped into for this formula. Now, from there, a lot of talk around the glycocalyx, right? The coating of our vascular system. Fucoidan or fucodon, however you want to call it, from seaweeds. This
Mm-hmm.
is in here as well at a significant dose. Really incredible when we think about supporting the regrowth and the repair of damage done to our glycocalyx. This is the one that was checking all the boxes in our formulation approach. Nanokinase, when we think about fibrinogen levels, circulation, coagulation, even spike protein, nanokinase was another easy one to add in here to layer into the synergy. Nitric oxide was another big component that a lot of our doctors were focusing on in their practice. So there's an ingredient combination that has moringa, pomegranate, and black ginger with multiple human studies that not only show acute application, but also a 22-day study that showed the long effects of what we call FitNox. So we've actually recently taken this finished product we call Cardio NAD, and we utilized the nitric oxide test strips and saw single dose impact with the nitric oxide test strip. So this is creating an incredible speedy impact in our body, and the safety profile is there for long-term use for all the reasons we just outlined. And this is one of them that we're really proud of because we're already seeing the impact and it's helping. We even have athletes, younger athletes taking this, talking about their lung capacity during working out has been greatly improved
Mm-hmm.
quickly with this formula. So every day we're getting a lot of testimonials, a lot of feedback to show that this time we got it right, right? It's working.
Right, and so Michael, the kinase, I've looked at that before. What about people who have thin blood, ITP? They're not supposed to take nattokinase. I understand.
Yeah, with all our formulas, because they're so advanced, it's always ideal to do under a supervision of your healthcare practitioner or to at least bounce back what you're considering because they have the best handle on your current prescriptions, your current health goals, the blood chemistry. And so that's why you hit on earlier, we are primarily focused on adding our solutions into the toolbox of practitioners to then tap into when they feel our formulas can make the biggest impact.
And I think it's amazing that you can use CoQ10 versus ubiquinol and have the absorbability factor be just as good. Because for years, people have said don't use CoQ10, don't always buy, particularly if you're over 45 or so, and you get older and you can't absorb. So this is really a breakthrough that you can use instead of ubiquinol, use CoQ10.
We felt the same way. We were looking a long time to find the right partner for that. And the group over in Europe that's heading up the Leo HB technology, they are applying this technology to a number of ingredients that historically are not well absorbed when taken orally. And we're excited to be their leading partner in the United States with this technology addressing the CoQ10 deficiency and absorption hurdle.
Hmm. So, what? that you said that this new product has been out it's only reformulated it recently. And so have you done other tests that are scientific studies, or is that going to be happening on
Yeah,
humans?
that's the next step. So what we're looking at is aligning with some of our current healthcare practitioners to identify the key metrics that we're going to be evaluating now with the finished product. The easiest thing that we've already done was the nitric oxide single dose application. All these ingredients have their own human studies and they're referenced on our website. Um, but our biggest challenge is how do we translate and make sure that the individual ingredient studies are coming together and translating into patient care. So that's the next part of the journey that we're going to be taking part in. We've already identified a few practitioners who are going to be leading that for us in the near future.
And who are they?
So if you're listening in central Pennsylvania, Turnpaw Health and Wellness, Dr. Chris Turnpaw, Dr. Cynthia West, there's 20 practitioners in this multi-centered practice. One of our leading partners, as a center, they are the largest non-hospital blood draw site in the state of Pennsylvania. So they are looking deep under the hood. They're drawing a lot of labs. That's going to give us a great baseline, but also able to follow these patients to see where are we making the biggest difference when taking this formula.
Hmm. So is this a formula that you can take for protective as well as if you already have a condition? Is
Absolutely.
Yeah, so this is you would say this formula could be taken by everybody. Do you need to be a certain age, do you think, or before you would start considering using NAD3?
So, with us, we have to always say 18 and up.
Mhm.
Especially with some of the things happening in New York with restrictions on supplements. But
Mhm.
no, I see a wide listener population benefiting from this. Like I was just mentioning the lung capacity from athletes. These are
Athlete.
these are guys in their 20s.
Yeah.
Healthy, you know, semi-professional boxers. I mean, we're getting incredible feedback, and these are guys that are honed in on their body and
Mhm.
what's moving the needle, what's making a difference, and to
Mhm.
get that kind of feedback so quickly was really exciting to hear. And yeah, just confirm we're on the right track here to help a lot of people with this.
Well, we both know that there's been a strong reaction to the COVID pandemic with a lot of athletes who have developed myocarditis. So this could be a game changer for that. All these professional athletic teams who are very concerned by seeing how many of their athletes have suffered myocarditis. So very good. Well, okay, so that's one. So now what would be, well, maybe I can ask it differently because I love some of the products, but let's talk about the GLP-1 because I think, I don't know a woman that doesn't want to lose 5 pounds. And even if she is looking, toned and buffed and all that, but still, there's always that issue. So the GLP-1 has become, the semiglutides have become the kind of darling of the weight loss industry, and yet there are side effects, as everybody has been. If they're diligent, they certainly read about the downside of taking Ozempic or Monjaro or any of the others. And so, why don't you talk about your addition to the metabolic issues of gaining weight and not being able to lose it? That's, I think, one of the biggest challenges as you get older.
You have started with two incredible formulas. You're making my job easy on this podcast. So, Ignite was a really, really special formula, similar with the cardio NAD story, right? There was a study that I read coming out of COVID where 8 out of every 10 people in the US right now are metabolically unhealthy. And when I talk to doctors, they actually say it's probably more like 9 out of every 10. We're not
Mhm,
we're not in the best place right now. And
mhm,
so to take a step back and similar to the cardio NAD formulation, right, identify what are those major pathways we need to address and better support. And so we start with things like glucose disposal issues, insulin resistance. How do we better activate things like AMPK? What are the hormones we need to better modulate? Things like ghrelin, leptin, adiponectin levels. You talked about that hard to lose, that tricky fat, that white adipose fat, right? So how do we beige the white fat? How do we increase thermogenesis without stimulation where you're just hot and sweaty all day?
mhm,
Supporting ketone levels, right? These are all major areas. So hitting on satiety, helping somebody that's reached a plateau, right? They were doing great, now no movement.
Yeah.
Or what's a first line of therapy before some of these GLP-1s may be considered? Or if somebody doesn't want to inject, how do we give them an option that could cast a wide net on all these pathways we just spoke about? And so Ignite is that formula. It's we have 7 trademarked ingredients at the right doses together to work on all these pathways that we are uncovering as the underlying cause of this dysfunction. And so I'm happy to dive into what those ingredients are. Yeah.
Absolutely. We all want to hear that. And I think before we start that, people should know AMPK, what that is. It's stands for activated protein kinase. But why don't you tell people what it really does in the body?
Yeah, so it's playing, this whole metabolism, right? Or, energy expenditure. We think about our ancestors, right? Hunter and gatherer days where we weren't sure where our next meal was coming from. So our body is programmed to have these signals of store it, don't burn it. And so
Yeah.
really we have to activate things like AMPK, modulate certain hormones because we have plenty of food at our disposal. We don't need to hold, we need to burn. We need to turn those carbs into energy and use it. When we think about things like basal metabolic rate, some of these things that some of you might be tracking. And so a lot of the literature is showing the importance of supporting AMPK and things like sirtuins and even mTOR, not to go down
Right.
that rabbit hole at this point, but AMPK is one that is a lot of researchers are tracking and identifying natural ways to support this. And so we've identified several ingredients that have the studies to show the activation and to also help with these signals, these cues in the body. And so I think it's a good time to talk about maybe the role of peptides here. I think
Yeah.
GLP-1s are dominating the media. There's some incredible impact that they make, and for some under the wrong supervision could cause some less desirable issues that we want to avoid. And so there are peptides that are satiety peptides. We are using here the ingredients called DNF10 at 500 milligrams. This was really interesting when we read this. So over 100 participants, 8 weeks they were followed, and by the eighth week, at this dose that we have, the average participant consumed 600 less calories per day. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, wow, right? This is something when we think about peptides, forget about the safety profile that's so great and attractive, but they're
Mm-hmm.
signalers, they're activators in the body, they're crossing guards when needed, and they're helping the body control the signaling of hunger in this case.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always interesting when I sit in some of the patients that are in front of our doctors and talk about, well, I thought you were on this diet. What happened? Where did it
Mm-hmm.
go wrong? Well, doc, I can't control my cravings. After dinner, 10 o'clock at night, I wake up, I'm starving, right? So helping address these cues with the brain was really important as a foundational piece for this formula. So the 500 milligrams, that was the study dose that's in here. Then from there, we think about the other big craze, nature's Ozempic, right? Berberine.
Mm-hmm.
There's been some tremendous updates with berberine. So berberine, in order for it to be utilized, converts to dihydroberberine in our gut. But in order for some people to get the intended use and impact of berberine, they have to take a lot, 1 gram, 1,500 milligrams. Some people that causes a lot of gut dysfunction.
Correct.
We've partnered with some incredible researchers that found a way to take what berberine converted to in the gut, the dihydroberberine, and
Mm-hmm.
create the dihydroberberine as a standalone and augment its production. And so we have 200 milligrams of dihydroberberine. And what we have shown is that this is 5 times more bioavailable than standard berberine and double the half-life without the GI issues. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was really meaningful to add this into the layer.
Mm-hmm.
Third ingredient that when I started reading about it, I was like, why didn't I know about this sooner? Why aren't more companies using it? And it's an ingredient called L-beta. And
Mm-hmm.
if you haven't heard about L-beta yet, we only produce it during high intense workouts. It's a
Right.
metabolite of L-valine. And so the same group that has the dihydroberberine also created its own L-beta. This is
Mm,
called mitoburn. And so by taking it on its own, we're augmenting the body's production. So on days we work out, we're producing more of it. And that's
mhm,
been shown to help speed up the beiging of that white sticky fat, the tricky
mhm,
one to lose. And on days we don't work out, it's not to say this is your cheat pass. Exercise is still going to be critical to get your goals right. But
right.
this is going to help speed up the basal metabolic rate and put that body in a state as if it did work out. So that's in here at also 500 milligrams. Bitter melon is one of those botanicals that there's no shortage of data on its role with cardiometabolic issues, glucose disposal issues. So this is a very rare form of bitter melon that we are bringing in from India. It's only harvested a few times a year. Great activity there. It's called Factor 21. The next two ingredients are the actoponin and inuslin that have studies on showing confirmation of activating AMPK and also helping the body burn, not store, the carbs and the fat. The last ingredient here, grains of paradise in the ginger family, really, really unique. At 40 milligrams, this is speeding up the basal metabolic rate and thermogenesis, where it's helping the body burn 100 calories a day with no lifestyle change. And so when you think about why we've chosen each of these ingredients and its role, it makes a lot of sense why so many different types of people are getting success with this formula in a variety of different ways.
Are these people that have been on the GLP ones that are now transitioning? Is that what are you finding that is one of the ways to get off of the chemicals and get on to the natural?
We certainly have plenty of practitioners that are using this as a phase two,
Hmm.
as part of the journey to be less reliant. Um, or they're using it as an option one, right? Try this first
Hmm.
and see how this works.
Hmm. Yeah, because you mentioned ghrelin and lectins, and I think a lot of people don't even know what those are, and that they are really affecting what your total metabolic picture looks like, and that's really related to your nutritional choices, right? So if you eat nightshades, you're going to get a lot of lectins. That's tomatoes, eggplant, peppers, and things that people love, and they say, "Why can't I keep eating those?" But they do have high lectin content, and the lectins are an antagonist to weight loss. And then the ghrelin is it makes you hungry, so you want to reduce your ghrelin levels in your body, which is what your product is doing naturally. And I guess berberine is one of the ones that does attack the ghrelin, right? In a natural way, as long as it's dosed properly.
Yeah,
And with
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
with your formula, I tried berberine and I did have some reaction gut wise. So I know that, trying your formula there was absolutely no reaction. Um,
That's what we like to hear.
yeah. So what kind of feedback have you had from the patients to their practitioners about using this product?
We've seen it all over. I mean, there's been people that say they claim they've lost 10 pounds on month one with no change, with no lifestyle change. I mean, I don't know how often that's going to happen. This isn't a
Right.
miracle pill, right? So,
Right.
what we see is that this has been a game changer and part of a bigger regimen. I think once you're optimizing your blood sugar and stabilizing blood sugar, one of the quickest things you're going to notice is energy
Mm-hmm.
increasing, brain fog being decreased, right? And this is what's been really attractive when all these things are working in combination. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's usually the quickest thing, eating less, right? Helping the satiety over time, making
Mm-hmm.
better choices. And we have a lot of people that are also giving us feedback that are doing the continuous glucose monitors and seeing firsthand not only how quickly the product's working, but how it's sustained and how it's being tracked that way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely at this point one of our top formulas in terms of utilization.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it makes a lot of sense with just how many people can benefit from these ingredients as part of their daily regimen.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, so we've talked about two very important ones. So we're focused on the heart, which is the leading cause of death in our world, and to now weight loss, which is the leading cause of unhappiness with most people who are, feeling like they don't have the body that they want. And there's a lot of mental issues that go along with with that emotional connection to the to what we physically want to look like. And so you're getting at two. Now let's go to the brain, because and the gut brain connection. What product would you recommend to people who are focused on those two issues?
Yeah, and what's incredible, the listeners don't even know we didn't rehearse this. Like you are just teeing me up for just products that are designed and making a great difference. This next one is one of them. And so the product's called Brain Boost, and when you were asking me earlier about some of the things we learned that didn't work, the brain, the energy, the fatigue was that example. And this time we got it right. And so what we learned, it was a costly mistake, but we knew we made it because it didn't help enough people, was how many people right now that are listening don't metabolize caffeine correctly. So some people are metabolizing it too fast. They get no benefit. They're chugging coffee and energy drinks all day. And then to those that just are such a slow metabolizer, they drink more than one cup of coffee in the morning, their whole day is kind of upside down. And so looking at why that's happening and ways to help. And then we didn't even talk about the genetic issues with caffeine that also are present. And so we are really excited to be the only practitioner brand that as of today has paraxanthine commercially available. Caffeine metabolites into three main metabolites. The main one is called paraxanthine. It's responsible for most of the benefit without any of the issues, the tolerance, the jitters, the hard stuff. It's all gone. We are now being able to deliver pure paraxanthine. What that is doing is now biohacking or bypassing the body's need to do the conversion, and takes out the genetic issue. So you're getting all benefit. That's the base of this formula. And so we think about the benefits associated with caffeine, but without the negative issues. You could take paraxanthine long term, no
Hmm.
tolerance buildup, no jitters, none of the negative things people have experienced. So we took paraxanthine, we split it up at 300 milligrams within 2 capsules to allow dosing flexibility. We added other incredible brain nourishing nutrients like organic lion's mane, alpha GPC,
Mm.
N-acetyl L-tyrosine, and L-theanine, all working together. So if you're listening right now and you don't wake up feeling refreshed, or you're crashing in the afternoon, or you have this constant brain fog, or you're not motivated, or you go to exercise and you just feel a little sluggish, this formula is for you. And
Hmm.
it's one that works on the first dose. That's what's really incredible, because we could talk about all this incredible innovation, but if you don't have the energy, the willingness, the motivation to create change, and those products are just going to sit on your kitchen counter,
Hmm.
not be utilized, and eventually expire. So this brain boost is so foundational to get things going and maximize our day and give our brains this slight edge to elevate as needed.
Hmm. So, and then does it have an effect on the gut, or is there a connection, or do you need to do another your gut product that would be combined with the brain to do the gut brain connection?
Yeah, so we don't market this as a gut brain formula. There would be a second piece to it, which is our prime gut health. And this is another one that there's not anyone I know of that can't benefit from this, whether acute or taken chronically, to identify the microbiome's role with longevity. And that is a topic that is really taking over the continued medical conferences and a lot of the recent publications highlighting the importance of keeping these tight junctions, right? Reducing the intestinal permeability that so many of us are running into. So, a lot of people say, well, Michael, where do you start?
Right?
Let's strengthen the gut. Let's heal the gut. Then
Yeah.
things are better absorbed. Other things may be even resolved with
Hmm.
focusing on that. And so, yeah, our prime gut health. I'm happy to go in any deeper on that if you'd like. But that's a great place to start.
Right. Well, as you know, Michael, you've looked at who's been on my podcast, and you know that we have a lot of people in common, and there isn't one guest that's in the medical world today that doesn't bring up the microbiome. And the microbiome, if you open the internet, you cannot find, you cannot go very far without seeing articles on how to heal your gut. So I think it is the foundational. Well, they say 80% of our immune system is in our gut. So I think it's foundational, and I think we should take some time for you to discuss that. So this one is, it's called Prime Gut Health. For everybody who's listening, if you're looking at the website after we finish and you want to see which product. So why don't you tell us more about Prime Gut Health and how that Prime Gut Health taken with Brain Boost could be the answer to your gut brain access. So I assume that's what you're hoping anyway. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So what's in Prime Gut Health and why does it work?
Yeah, and also showing not only the gut brain axis, but the gut's connection to metabolism and cardiovascular issues. So really, Prime Gut Health can be plugged into any of the formulas we
Correct.
spoke about. So in identifying why this is so unique, and I like to say we're so smart and tapped in, but this formula was really designed in collaboration with so many incredible practitioners who were using 3 or 4 separate formulas with their patients getting great results. We said, you know what, let's hit on compliance and convenience to set up sustained success with patients. So we put multiple products in one. Let's start with immunoglobulins. So InterHealth's our partner here, Immunolin, over 40 published studies. These immunoglobulins are there to bind to bacteria in the gut that don't belong there, right? So we think about how do we clean up? How do we clean up the yard?
Hmm.
Well, it's getting rid of the leaves, it's getting rid of things that don't belong there, and the rake's gonna be your best friend in that case. Well, in this case, immunoglobulins, right? IgG, for example, is gonna be something and something that many practitioners, top-level practitioners, are using with incredible success. So 1 gram of the immunoglobulin complex paired with butyrate. The form of butyrate is tributylin that we are using. It's called Core Biome. It's the only butyrate at the time of this recording that's been proven to reach the colon. So when we think about pre and postbiotics and the ability to stimulate short chain fatty acid production and start to, now that the yard's cleaned up, well, let's get some things planted, right? Let's get the grass growing, the
Hmm.
flowers blooming. So
Hmm.
this at 1 gram is a very meaningful dose that
Hmm.
complements the immunoglobulins. And then from there, we all know about probiotics, right? Everyone's talking about probiotics. Eat your yogurt, fermented foods. These are 3 ID verified probiotics from spores. And the
Yeah.
reason I love spores is that they are so resistant to different pH levels and heat. And so
Yeah.
we're making sure that when you're taking this product, you're taking live cultures, right? That are going to be meaningful when they reach your gut.
Hmm.
12 billion is a high level dose when it comes to spores. And that's what we have in each serving. And there's
Hmm.
published studies in humans on the actual ID verified spores that are in here in the combination. So they are the Tribac spore blend. So even for acute, we think about diarrhea, constipation, all these acute flare ups, this formula is incredible for that, but also can be used for long term gut health.
Hmm.
The last piece of this puzzle is an ingredient called estrogen, which is astragalus, RB1. And this is really critical because it helps improve absorption of anything it's paired with. It is going to help reduce in the intestinal wall inflammation, as
Hmm.
well as being that game changer, right? We just saw a publication with this ingredient in colitis and Crohn's patients. And so for a lot of people are taking this because, oh, probiotics are in here. They see the butyrate, they see the immunoglobulins, they don't even see the estrogen. But that is an incredible ingredient that was very purposefully put in here. And that's what makes up prime gut health.
Hmm. And you mentioned that you're going to be looking at Akkermansia for future formulations. Is that taken any form yet in terms of including in the next generation?
Well, if we're talking about the future, we have identified some sources of Akkermansia. There's just a lot of companies that are doing a great job delivering that. We have actually pivoted, and I guess we could use this podcast to announce some teasers. We're going to be first to market some really unique innovation around the microbiome, leveraging AI technology. So
Mm.
think about colostrum on steroids.
Hmm.
glycoproteins. This is AI derived, where they're able to identify pieces of the colostrum that they're pulling out,
Hmm.
using the AI to say, well, what piece is most therapeutic for what intended target? And then when that target's been confirmed, they're able to then create a pattern of this colostrum to mimic breast milk.
Hmm.
Fascinating. This is a biotech company out of Israel. We're going to be their partner in the US. We just signed
Hmm.
a deal with them. And the other big thing is going to be human identical lactoferrin. Uh,
Hmm.
that's also in the near future. And another one, talking about the gut brain axis, is there's now new precision probiotics that we could take to stimulate production of certain things. In this case, this one ID targeted probiotic stimulates the production in our guts of GABA. It's
Mm.
just next generation technology that we're going to be leveraging and layering into the current innovations that we've brought to market. So like I said, the microbiome's just warming up, and
Wow.
definitely, keep track of where we're going over the next 18 months or so.
For people who may want to know what GABA is, one of the greatest formulas in the world is GABA for relaxation. It's really comparable to L-theanine, I think, right, in terms of helping the cortisol levels. And actually, we didn't talk about stress today, but in cortisol, but this is another big enemy of everything that you've talked about. If you don't have your stress levels managed and your cortisol levels reduced, none of this is going to really help you, because stress is, as they say, is a killer. So can you address that for a moment, for our audience?
This has been a big, big area for us. When we think about cortisol, stress and wired, stress and tired, um, anxiety is through the roof. So we're actually about 48 hours away from finalizing our solution for this. So
Oh.
yeah, we've been working on it for over 2 years. So this is
Oh, then I guess my question was timely. Okay, so can you break the news early, or is it something we have to wait for another couple of days?
we could. I mean, this wasn't rehearsed at all, but I've been just admired on some of the use with things like in Magnolia, uh,
Mhm.
which then derives hinokiol. So dihydrohinokiol is a game
Mhm.
changer. A lot of my providers have seen firsthand what this has done in an acute setting, right? To kind of almost be that chill pill. Um,
Yeah.
and then looking at things like L-theanine and we talked about the GABA stimulating precision probiotic. These are going to be all uh, in the formula, I guess I should say, without giving away too much.
Right. Is it going to be a new formula, or is it going to be included in some of the ones that we've talked about?
This is going to be a new formula. This is going to be something that you
Oh,
could take as needed, that could work fast, that you could take any time of day, depending on when the biggest opportunity to help is. So for some people, it's going to work, going to that family
mm,
reunion, getting on that airplane. How about going to sleep, where you lay in bed, your mind's racing all night? So we've been
right.
working really diligently to identify the special combination that's going to provide the greatest benefit as quickly as possible.
So when will we be able to get that product, Michael?
Well, I don't know when this is going to air, but I'm hoping by the end of summer.
Oh, okay. Can we know the name of it, or does it have a name yet?
Wow, you're going to hold me here. It's not finalized,
Okay.
but I'm pretty sure what we're talking about is going to be called Serenity.
Oh, I was just going to tell you that I've been taking a product called Be Serene, and it's probably not nearly as complex as yours, but it is. And interestingly, they tell you to take it only between 1 and 7 p.m. And I was surprised, because I thought, cortisol when you wake up, oh, it's at its lowest. So I suppose they're just saying as the day goes on and you have more and more stressors, that it'll do the most benefit to you during those 6 hours. But anyway, so that is another one you should be aware. It is called Be Serene, but not Serenity. But I'm surprised there isn't a product already on the market called Serenity.
Yeah, there's a few out there. not trademarked. I just like Serenity with the little plus sign at the end. I just, we try to not create these like complex product names that take you 10 minutes to figure out what is it even for and what's in it. Just
Exactly.
think that when you hold the bottle and you get it, it makes sense, right? And you know, all these formulas are tough to name. I felt like I was most attracted to Serenity. I just felt like that was the piece, the mindset
Hmm.
that we were looking for.
Well, that's exciting. So everybody, look, watch out for yeah, the
This is breaking news. Your
yeah.
podcast is
Thank
wow,
you.
first to know.
Well, we like that. We like to be innovating and be in front of the crowd, so to speak. So, okay, I have a lot of friends who have joint muscle issues of hip replacements, ankle breaking, the just the things that happen as you get older. So, and some of them are from accidents. So, BPC 157, we've talked about this on a number of my podcasts because it is kind of the one of the most prominent peptides that gets mentioned when we talk about anything to do with tendons and muscles. What would you say about your product? You have two, BPC 157 by itself, and then you have BPC 157 dash PEA 500. So let's talk about the one that you think is the most efficacious. If I don't like to put you on the spot like that, but I want you to, we only have limited time, so I want people to know the one that they should look at if they have those kind of issues. And just before you start, I just want to say to everyone that BPC 157 comes from the gut, and it's actually called the Wolverine peptide because it has so many positive effects on gut issues like gastric ulcers, and things like that, and IBD and IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, and so there are both oral and injectable formulas, and you have the oral, which I was told in the beginning. Take the oral if you've focused on your gut. Take the injection if you're focused on your muscles. But yet you advertise, promote both being affected by the oral. So, can you, in your answer today and description, could you address that issue? Because I think people are confused.
I would love to, and actually, I guess to debut some more breaking information, there will be a third formula by the time this airs with
Oh,
EPC, so there'll be an even greater comprehensive approach. That's going to be BPC plus KPV plus
oh,
PEA. Uh,
oh,
and so now we're giving you just more options depending on what the intended target is.
yes,
For this, we are very careful. We don't over promote, overextend. We try to say as little as possible and let the doctors and you do your own research.
yes,
What I can share is the amount of testimonials, people calling us, emailing us about what this formula has done for issues outside the gut. I think anything in the gut's been a no-brainer. We know the BPC, especially naturally occurring in the gastric juice, is going to do its thing there. People would say that injectable would be a preferred administration for anything outside the gut, and that's getting very hard to get. So
correct.
people are now turning to ours and saying that unless it's placebo, and listen, I never rule that out, but they
Hmm.
feel it's been helping them, repair that shoulder, the Achilles injury, and that's been really intriguing because for a lot of people, I'm just like, hey, low hanging fruit. Anybody on a PPI, any gut dysfunction, and there's something to our secret sauce. So when three of our peptides are paired with something called sacchobrazate sodium, and it's short for snack. Semaglutide as an oral is actually also bound by snack. And this creates a buffer around the peptide to improve or enhance its oral potential because
Hmm.
it buffers different changes of the pH level.
Right.
So our BPC and all of our options in the BPC have it bound with snacks. So I do think that could be why we're seeing such a great experience with it. We are using the BPC arginate salt version, which is the gold standard in terms of oral delivery.
Mm,
There's acetate, there's some other ones. And so, and hopefully I'm answering your question. I know I went a roundabout way of talking about this. We do have it with PEA. And for those that don't know about PEA, PEA is a lipid resolving mediator. We produce it naturally in response to pain and inflammation. And so that may also be helping the BPC work outside the gut, but PEA is also working inside the gut as well. Um,
mm,
and some doctors are saying this is working fast. Some of my doctors are opening up this bottle during the patient visit when the
mm,
patient's there in discomfort.
mhm.
And it doesn't work for everybody that fast, but
Right.
for some people, right place, right time, right combination, it's been very meaningful.
And what is KPV?
So KPV is an antimicrobial peptide. This has been also very popular to use in combination with BPC. That's why we're doing the combo.
Mm,
PEA can be used for supporting healthy levels of pain, if that even exists. I'm just trying to create some legal friendly supportive claims here and not say too much on the record.
mm,
SIBO, mast cell dysfunction. These are things where a lot of doctors are using KPV. It's orally bioavailable. So we have it as a standalone, and we'll have it in the bigger blend with BPC as well.
mhm. This is, and we've only covered, a third of your products. So, I mean, I have the entire inventory of your products and in my notes because I've been so curious to know, all the different possibilities that you offer before we had our podcast. So we haven't covered two of the ones that I think are really important and well, they're all important, but I just picked the highlighted one. So one of them, and I want to cover that before we leave today, is the Resolve. And maybe you could just spend a couple minutes telling us why is Resolve such an important product for people to know about?
Yes. So, this journey actually started in 2013. I was part of the first commercial team in the US that launched or brought to market specialized pro resolving mediators. And this was really based on the work out of Dr. Charlie Sirhan out of Harvard, where
Hmm.
he started identifying um, SPMs occurring in high dose fish oil or occurring in fish oil to help resolve inflammation. And so, what we call this formula Resolve, um, low grade inflammation that doesn't get resolved is really the backbone of what's speeding up aging. It's behind a lot of chronic disease. And so we wanted to get this one right. We wanted to identify in the literature what are these nutrients that are most meaningful to help modulate many of these key pathways. And so
Hmm.
first up comes curcumin. And there's a lot of different options in the curcumin world. Everyone's touting great bioavailability. The ones
Hmm.
that we ultimately picked was Theracumin Super, and this is a group that has published over 30 papers. All they make is this. So I love when ingredient companies are dialed in and just own a category like they
Right.
do.
Yeah.
Uh, we layer that in with tetrahydrocurcumin, which is what a piece of the curcumin metabolites into. So we extracted that out with the same group that did the dihydroberberine and the L-beta, same company. And so
Right.
it's two-pronged, very complete curcumin matrix that's in
Hmm.
here. Then from
Hmm.
there, we did two other usual suspects, but at high absorption potential, two phytosomes, quercetin and boswellia.
Hmm.
And the other piece, which is an incredible ingredient that I think is underutilized in supplements, is perylacid.
Yep.
Perylacid is great at allergies, right? Th1, Th2, mast cell. And so somebody that has this unresolved pain and inflammation, there could be a little bit of that happening. So we put perylacid into this formula. And the secret sauce in this formula is the acmella flower. And so if you're listening and you're not familiar with what this flower is, I wasn't, to be honest, till this was brought to my attention. This is a flower that is grown and harvested on the island of Sardinia, one of the blue zones. And in
Hmm.
folk medicine, doctors would give this flower to their patients to chew on because it numbed them out. It's called the toothache plant, and
Hmm.
it's helping the body better respond to pain and inflammation.
Hmm.
That's in here. And then rounding out, we have the astragalus astrogen, the RB1, to
Hmm.
connect the gut inflammation pain matrix. So that's what Resolve is. Two capsules. works quickly. You could take it long term. We even have people telling us that it's resolving skin irritation. So this whole, your skin is a mirror of what's inside. This formula has been really heightening the
Mm.
importance of making sure we are cleaning up what's going on inside of us.
Yeah, and everybody, knows that inflammation is the key to, or curing inflammation is one of the keys to curing chronic illness. So it's a new term called inflammaging.
That's
Infl-
right.
yeah.
That's
So
the backbone of what resolve is.
right, exactly. So, well, we're running out of time, so I want to be sure we include some contact information, Michael. So I know you offered a very generous gift to our viewers today. So why don't you tell us about that, and then how do people find you, and if they have any questions, do you have a customer service a helpline?
Yeah, absolutely. So wanted to thank everybody for listening. A special gift. We don't do this often, but I wanted to just kind of have people take action. Right, you're this far into listening to us, so we want to make
Hmm.
it as easy as possible to take action, create change in your life. So at checkout, using the code ageless is going to unlock your opening order 15% off whatever you have. It could be as little or as much as you want. Um, but a little extra gift to say thank you and to be grateful for the opportunity to give Healthgevity a chance to help you on your wellness journey. So I don't think we've given out our website yet. It's healthgev.com, and that's healthgev.com. You find us on Instagram. And so if you haven't found that, healthgev is our Instagram handle as well. We don't post a lot, but what we do, it's great education, sharing. And if you don't want to check the website out, you rather call us. We
Right.
could be reached at 833-940-4898. And that's our toll-free number.
And is there somebody that can answer questions that, because I know that you're limited to give medical advice, just by law. So, but if somebody has a question about a product ingredient or just not asking for medical advice, which they really should be under supervision, as you said earlier, before they even order your product. So even their doctors may be the ones to tell them to, have your products if they don't supply them at their clinic. So but yeah, so what if they call? Is that just to make an order, or can they ask questions?
They can certainly ask. We'll try our best to provide the support without making any claims or replacing medical advice.
Right.
Uh, or you could always call us. I'm sorry, we did the call. You can email us at
Mm-hmm.
support@healthgev.com.
Oh, that's excellent. Okay. And before we go, Michael, you and I know a lot of people in common, and they've been on my podcast, like Dr. Susan Foray, and who else did we both? Well, Robert Goldman, of course, from A4M, and I was trying to remember. Have you had a relationship with Dr. Margarinos, Geraldo Margarinos?
Not yet. No.
All right, I want to connect you to. He was on my podcast last week, and he's totally focused on the microbiome. But he was a dentist in Chile. So I want him to know about you. I'm going to send him a note when we get off, just so he knows who you are. And there are many others, but you and I have in common. Dr. Silverman,
Dr. Silverman, no, and Lisa originally connected us too over in New Zealand. So grateful
exactly.
for her.
Lisa Tomati, who's one of my close friends and a wonderful podcaster herself. And I know you've been on. I think you told me you went on yesterday, right?
We
To
did. We just recorded part two yesterday.
part two. Okay, so anybody that wants to hear Michael more than today, they can go to Lisa Tomedy. It's called Pushing the Limits, and I'd love to give her a plug, as she always does for me too. So we're very aligned in our visions about what we can do to help people in this world. All right. Well, Michael, it's been a wonderful time spent together today. And if there's anything else, we can always do part two. We're booked until next year, but you know what? It might be good to have you back because it looks like at the pace that you're going, there'll be several new products. There's already two coming on, right? So Okay, well, everyone should know if there's any questions you have not to call Michael, you can always call me, and that's at 808-639-0904. And this is Michelle Hughes signing off. Everyone have a beautiful day. Thank you. Bye bye, Michael.
Bye bye. Thank you for having me.
Okay.